the emotions that I was feeling were brand new to me. Like, I did not understand where they were coming from. Things like, I know we just met, but I miss you. I knew I missed you as soon as I saw you, that type of thing. I did not know that having that kind of connection, I didn't know what that love was.
Who am I?
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 This is Who Am I, Really? A podcast about adoptees that have located and connected with their biological family members. I'm Damon Davis, and today is a special double adoptee episode with Noreen and Adrian. They both live in Massachusetts, but they were together in New Hampshire to meet someone special. In Noreen's search, her adoptive mother was very supportive and even spoke with her first mother. For Adrian, the maternal search has had its ups and downs, including finding a grave. But their stories ended up converging when they found each other through DNA, developed an instant bond, and have since supported each other through a shared paternal search. These are the individual and convergent journeys of Noreen and Adrian. As you know, it's rare for me to interview two people at once, so I needed to figure out how to help Noreen and Adrian to tell two separate stories on converging timelines. Of course, Adrian and I, being the gentlemen that we are, we started with Noreen's journey first. For context, there's a 5-year age gap between Noreen, the older sister, and Adrian, her younger brother. Noreen was born in Boston, Massachusetts, on the state's eastern shore. However, she was relinquished for adoption 1 state north, in New Hampshire. When her parents set out to adopt a baby girl, there were none available in Massachusetts, where they lived, so they traveled further north, to New Hampshire, where Noreen had been in foster care for 6 months. When I asked her about her adopted life growing up in western Massachusetts, she said she always knew she was adopted. She had one adopted brother, an adopted cousin, and her adoptive mother helped raise 2 other adopted girls, so adoption wasn't a big deal in her home. But still, there was an underlying feeling of not quite fitting in. Talking about issues of mirroring between herself and her parents, Noreen is a tall blonde among medium-height brunettes, and there were differences in their personality traits which weren't reciprocated from her parents back to Noreen, so she said she turned those parts of herself off.
My sense of humor, I'm extremely creative, definitely strong in math. My parents were rather basic, not very complicated people. So I don't know what age it was, but at some point, I kind of stopped showing that part of myself because there was no feedback in my family to encourage it. Mm-hmm. So part of my personality got isolated, in other words.
Yeah, because it wasn't supported.
It wasn't, nobody said stop doing that, but as a kid, nobody encouraged it either. So without feedback, you just stop.
Adrian was born in Burlington, Vermont, also north of Massachusetts and 1 state west of New Hampshire. He also knew he was adopted growing up, and he had one older brother, 4 years his senior, who was also adopted. Adrian said adoption never fazed him, and he didn't really think about it much until
I lost my brother when I was 15, and that opened up a lot of questions to who I was and where I was going, and I wanted to know a little bit more about my background and my history, so I started talking to my mom about that. Very supportive, behind me 100% for anything I wanted to do, any direction that I wanted to go. She was behind me in it. So,
What happened to your brother, and why was that so triggering for your decision to start thinking more deeply about yourself?
I think it was the loss of he was an older brother, and we weren't extremely close. We were close for brothers, but the 4-year age difference, I hung out with some of his older friends. I was the tag along. He was like the older babysitter brother, had to look after me and look out for me and stuff. And I think when that ended, it just left me alone. Both my parents were working all the time, so I was alone a lot. So that left me thinking about, is there more family out there? Are there more siblings out there? Left me with a lot of questions.
I see. So being anchored in your identity as an adoptee, you understood what it meant, that there is another family out there. And with your brother's absence, it started to make you wonder, well, is there potentially another brother or sister or somebody out there that I maybe should know? That's really
Yeah, I started getting curious. But at 15 years old, where do you go with it? You get the information from the people I was living with, my adoptive parents. And my mom, like I said, was very supportive. And she got excited that I was looking, that I was starting my search. I just didn't know where to go. I just knew I was born in Burlington, Vermont, and I was adopted through the Elizabeth Lund home, which is now part of the Vermont Adoption Registry. So
Gotcha.
there was many trips to Vermont. There was many trips to Vermont.
Tell me about your personality as it applied to your adoptive parents. Were you similar to them? Were you different?
No, very different, very different. My mother was a musician. She taught voice, piano, and guitar. And my father was a numbers guy. He was an accountant and then a realtor. And that was so different than anything that I've always been a hands-on, a trades type of guy. I like to get my hands dirty. I like to figure things out. I like to rip things apart and rebuild them. That's more my style when it comes to sitting down and figuring out numbers. My mom tried to teach me music and I couldn't line it up. I couldn't sync.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You've got a sort of intellectual numbers person and an artsy person, and you're hands-on. I could see how those things would be incongruent. Really fascinating. So, one of the things that happens with adoptees when they're young is they get different triggers throughout their lives. Adrian, you've said that the death of your brother was a trigger for you. There's the school project where we do the family tree. There's going to the doctor's office and they ask you your medical history and you can't tell. You can't share that. Did you guys have triggers in your life that sort of reminded you that you were adopted and that there was a disconnect in your timeline of information?
Yeah, I think pretty much the basics. The doctor's asking you over and over. And I think you have my records. It says I'm adopted. Why every time I go, do you have to say, what's your family history? What's your family health history? There's that stuff. The comments from people when it's a joke. Oh yeah, we tell them they're adopted. That always really zinged me because now as an adult, I say something, but as a kid, what do you say? Hated that. I really hated that.
Now as an adult,
I going back at somebody and saying, well, I'm adopted, so I don't make jokes like that and putting it back on them. And then they backpedal.
The seriousness of what that joke really sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of it's just awareness. I think a lot of people just repeat things that they've heard, especially like kids in school. Somebody somewhere along the way has made the joke and they just repeat it without thinking, wow, that's pretty insulting to say to somebody.
Yeah. It's one of those things that kids do because when it gets a laugh over here, you want to repeat it over here where nobody's hurt. You get to be the person, realize the pain of what it is. Kids don't think that far out, really. Adrian, how about for you? You've mentioned the passing of your brother. Were there other things in life where you were just kind of reminded, yeah, I am adopted. This is different?
Well, with the doctor's offices and questionnaires, yeah, there was a lot of having to explain that, but it never really bothered me. It was more annoying than anything because I had to keep repeating myself. But no, there was never any question about that. I never really got into it until I was 18 or 19 with how strong the feelings of adoption were, the curiosity of who else is out there.
Around 18 years old, Noreen's adoptive brother had searched for his own biological family, but it wasn't something she had thought about before. She didn't even understand why her brother was searching. But in her early 20s, Noreen was coming into her own, more closely examining her own traits and getting curious about their origins. When her brother, adopted through the same agency, started his search, their parents pulled out the adoption paperwork and both sets of documents had each adoptee's respective first mother's names on them. Noreen's document said her birth mother was 40 and single when she placed Noreen, which made sense to her as to why she was placed. Noreen's adoptive mother was very supportive of her search, so the women took a car ride to New Hampshire to do some research. There was no internet back in the early 1980s, so they went to the library to search directories that revealed her birth mother lived with different family members over time. They found a high school yearbook picture of the woman, similar pictures of her siblings, and the woman's home address back then.
And I went out to the phone booth, put my money in, and called her.
What did you see in those pictures when you found them?
So she graduated, I think it was like 1927. So, no makeup, severe hair pulled back. About the only thing I really noticed were some of my eyes, because I have deep set eyes. And I was like, oh, okay, that's where that comes from. But I don't really have any of those really one feature that you're like, that's the whatever nose or that's the whatever chin. So again, it could kind of blend in with almost anybody.
But what was it like then just to see her face? This is a person that you're trying to find and you don't even know what she looks like. And now you got her.
Yeah, it was, I think I stared at it for quite a while. And then because I could see her sister's picture and her brother's picture. So I was trying to put the three of them together to see who I was more like. Again, nothing jumped out. It wasn't like, oh my God, am I this person's daughter? It wasn't that strong of a feeling until I spoke with her when I called. And I said, I think we may be related. And she started going off about some relatives they just found. And I was like, well, this is my date of birth. And then she got quiet. And it was, yes, So I figured she wasn't able to talk because I was also told she never told anybody about me. So nobody knew. So I said, is it okay if I send you a letter? And she said, yes. And I hung up the phone and I got back in the car and I turned to my mother and I said, she sounds just like somebody I know, but I can't put my finger on it. I don't know if it's a teacher or what. And my mom said, does she sound like you? And I was blown away. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Because I'd never heard anybody that sounded like me. Yeah. So that is still probably the strongest memory, that her voice sounded like mine.
That's really funny that she sounds so familiar. You were thinking, I know that voice you live with. That's hysterical. Wow. Yeah. What else did your mom say when you got back in the car?
Oh, not much. Again, my mom was really sweet and not very expressive. So, well, this is great. And I'll jump ahead a little bit. I sent my birth mother a letter. She called. Again, this is before we had voicemail or anything. So she called my house one night and I was living at home. I wasn't home and my mom answered the phone. And she thanked my mom for raising me. And that's when I think we found out that she never knew if she had a boy or a girl. They just took me. So it wasn't until I contacted her that she actually knew she had a daughter.
Is that right? That's unreal.
Yeah.
They must have put her into that twilight sleep that they put others, or they just didn't announce what she had given birth to. That's really wild. I've not heard that before.
Yeah. And because of your podcast, I've been starting to read The Primal Wound, and so many pieces hit, and that being one of them. So this is the body I know for 9 months. I'm taken out, put in a hospital bed, whatever, and then taken out of there and put in foster care for 6 months, and then taken out of there and placed with my family.
That book was really eye-opening. And so too was The Girls Who Went Away. Mm-hmm. Just being able to read through and empathize with what these women went through, even if it was a proxy for my own birth mother's experience. But that primal wound piece was really fascinating to me. I constantly think of the fact that in the womb, the child is hearing her heartbeat, hearing her voice, hearing the situation in the world around her, everything that there's a lot of familiarity that's being created in those early months. And to have it be completely severed and have the two lives go in opposite directions is just unbelievable to me. So I can see
when I was adopted, they created this letter from me to the new parents and telling, like, I like to do this and It's a little bizarre, but
Yeah.
in there it says, I'm uncomfortable with strangers, and especially in new situations, but then I relax. And I think, well, of course, right?
Duh.
Just this primal part of saying, yep, here I go again.
Yeah.
Now where am I going to end up?
Right. Oh, I see. So at 6 months, the foster care, whoever had you, was trying to establish a personality.
Yeah,
Gosh.
let me tell you. I said I like to be thrown in the air and I like it rough. And the last sentence says, though I'm often mistaken for a boy, I'm very feminine in nature. And I was like, well, way to sell me to the new people.
Yeah, right.
When he was 12, Adrian was applying for a Social Security card with his mother's help. As they reviewed the questionnaire, she pulled out and handed him the packet of information about his adoption. It was all non-identifying information, including an adoption certificate, not a birth certificate. Adrian kept that packet and studied it over the years, pulling it out whenever he got curious, searching for any missing detail he hadn't seen before. When his brother passed away, Adrian got more intense in his planning of how to execute an adoption reunion search in the late 1980s. He figured his starting point was the Elizabeth Lund home, and any resources he could locate would be in Burlington, Vermont.
So I ended up in Burlington, Vermont, and I went to the adoption registry and sat down with a woman and told her what I was trying to do. And that's when I learned about the Vermont adoption laws and how strong they were to protect the parents. So I got another packet of non-identifying information, and it was pretty much the same stuff that I had. So I kind of left there defeated. I didn't really have any more answers. I was just told every so often you can reapply, and if there's any changes, we'll keep you updated and informed of the changes. Yeah, I had that information already. So apart from going to Vermont and having a nice trip, I didn't have any more information.
Yeah. So what did you do next?
I sat on that for a while. I just didn't really do anything with that. I was at a point in my life where I was starting to grow in my trade. I was starting to do things. I was becoming an adult. I kind of ran with my life and put that aside. Every now and then I think about it, but not that much. It wasn't until I was in my 30s when it hit me again really hard that I had a massive coronary. And I ended up in the hospital for a couple of weeks. And it got really strong that I needed to find out my biological history. I needed to find out a medical history. I needed to get answers of my health. So I went back to Vermont in my early 30s and went back to the adoption registry, to the Elizabeth Lund home. And they informed me that they could petition the courts to try and get my medical records. But unfortunately, they petitioned the courts, and the courts decided they didn't need to give out any more information. So I had another shut door in my face, and that was devastating for me. I thought I had the golden ticket.
Yeah,
I had a heart attack. I wanted to go back, and
what more do I need to do?
exactly.
I died. What else do you want from me?
So I was kind of devastated with that. I was stopped in my tracks. So that stopped me again for a little while. That stopped my search.
What happens next then? When did your search return to you?
I went back just out of the one. I was in Vermont. I was up on a ski trip in Vermont, and I decided to just stop by the adoption registry. And
As one does on a ski trip.
yeah, well, I have a connection to Vermont. I have this connection, so it's a good excuse to go there. So I went again and sat down with somebody. I don't know if I should say this, but they left the file on the desk and excused themselves. And I sat there for a minute and didn't really think about my opportunity that was in front of me. And then it caught me like, okay. So I got up and I looked at the file, and basically there were some names in there, but nothing that I could retain in that amount of time before she came back in the room.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you get the impression that she did that on purpose?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Really?
They wanted to help, but their hands were tied. They could only do so much. So I really feel that was like a bonus for me. That was in my favor. After all this time, all these doors getting slammed in my face.
Yeah. This guy's been back now, what, 3, 4 times?
Yeah, they got to know I was serious.
From a bone, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said it was quick. You couldn't really retain it. So what happens next?
Well, I kind of had a little more hope that time leaving. They said they were going to reapply to the courts and see if they could do anything for me this time because laws and things had changed a little bit. But I got a letter in the mail a couple of weeks later. Same scenario. Didn't have any more information for me. That was it. So at that point, I kind of left it alone.
Dang, they're putting you through the ringer, man.
Yeah, I get it. I understand it. So I kind of like, all right, this is the path that I've chosen. So we'll just wait it out. And I got diagnosed with bronchogenic carcinoma. It's a form of lung cancer.
Mhm.
So I spent some more downtime in the hospital where it got really strong that I needed to find my medical background. But it didn't, it just kept the fire going in me to continue the search and to keep things going. But I still didn't get anywhere with anything I was doing.
Gotcha. Did you end up on 23? Is that 23andMe your next step?
Yeah. Well, I had a customer who worked in the adoption field. And we got into a conversation one day while I was working on her property, and she suggested that I should try 23andMe. And she actually went and bought the kit for me to try. And I never did. I don't know what happened, but a year, maybe 2 years went by. And one night I was sitting thinking, I really need to do something about this. So I went online, I ordered the kit, and I sent it in.
That's incredible. This is going to be the complex part now between the two of you. So, Noreen, you've sent this letter. Your biological mother has called and spoken to your adoptive mother on the phone and given her information that you all didn't have previously. Your biological mother has revealed that she didn't even know what your gender was when she left the hospital. And now, seemingly, you all are connected. So what happens after that phone call when she calls your mom?
Then she called again and I was home and we spoke and she started off just saying, I don't know what you want to know. There's no mental illness in the family, which I always thought was kind of a weird thing to start with. We talked a little bit. There were some similarities. We both belong to clubs and do things and organizations and that type of thing. And then she said, I really don't see that I have anything to gain by meeting you.
Wow.
So there's the secondary rejection. And that was that.
That was it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
And so I had gotten my unidentifying information for $40. And it said, the only thing it said about my birth father was he skied, his sister skied, he worked in insurance, and he was 40 and single. So that literally is all I had. And then I joined 23andMe in 2013.
Back though to your biological mother saying this to you, I don't really see it that there's anything for me to gain. And what did you think when she said that?
I was kind of shocked. I think my initial reaction, I didn't say it, but I was like, well, I'm not in diapers anymore. You don't have to take care of me. I knew she had never told anybody. So, okay. Going through all of this and the amount of emotions that I've been dealing with meeting Adrian, I have a better perspective on it, that it's got to be tough. I belonged to an adoptee group when I lived in Denver for a couple of years. And one of the people that ran the group, because we all had to share our stories, said, you have to remember, people weren't supposed to be having sex after the age of 40. Never mind if you were single, not in 1960. That was for procreation purposes only. And that the way she dealt with this, especially not even knowing if she had a boy or girl, she just throws it out of her mind. And their opinion was that if she agreed to meet me, that she could be facing having to give me up again. Because what if I rejected her?
Those are good points.
Yeah, it was interesting. Didn't really help the pain, but yeah, I had not looked at it from that perspective.
The other thing that comes to mind for me too is that for years you were truly de-identified, right? One thing when you can go through your life and say, gosh, I wonder how my daughter is doing. It's totally different when you don't know the gender of that person. So you can't even ask that basic question. And so as you've said, there was the shame and shun of the time frame in which she got pregnant and relinquished you into adoption. And then there's the complete de-identification of you as a person, such that here you are coming multiple decades later, and she had probably put a lot of it out of her mind as best as she could. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying I can understand how she could have been so aloof about it, because you weren't like it was almost like you weren't a real person, probably.
Just a thing that happened.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. You
Yeah.
were an episode.
And not a good one for her.
Knowing that she wasn't going to get any information about her birth father from her birth mother, Noreen also submitted her DNA to 23andMe. In 2008, Massachusetts opened their laws to allow the sharing of original birth certificates, so she ordered a copy of hers, knowing his name was unlikely to be on the document. But Noreen did see some of the forensic evidence of her birth, like the time of day when she was born. But since her birth mother didn't even know her child's gender, Noreen was simply listed as baby girl for her name. Noreen said she always felt like she might find her birth father one day.
But when it didn't show up on the birth certificate, that door shut a little bit for me, because where do I go with that? And then 23andMe came out. Like Adrian, it took me about 7 months after I ordered the kit. It sat there. I can't explain it. And then I finally do the spit, and I get a message from them that they didn't have enough to identify any DNA.
Really?
It's like the worst thing to tell an adopted person, and
Right.
I had to redo it.
Oh
But
my gosh, that's wild. Did you have to
Yeah.
pay for it again, or did they just?
no, they sent me a free kit. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So you sent the second one in.
Yep. And the general second, third, fourth cousins, whatever. I still find the site rather confusing, trying to figure out, well, is this on my mother's side or is this on my father's side? I had followed along. I would check the obituaries and stuff. So I knew my birth mother had passed away and her brother had passed away. So I hooked up with somebody on there that knew my birth mother. She was an aunt or something. And they said, yeah, we know him very well, blah, 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 blah. And then ghosted me. That was that. Yeah. Later on, so about 2022, somebody contacted me and wanted to figure out how we were related. And this person was on my father's side of the family. So again, all I had to give him was he skied, he was 40, he was single. I just didn't have any information. And he gave me 3 surnames that were possibilities. But again, I had no place to go with it. Then I got a message in January through 23andMe that said, I think you may be my half sister.
Wow.
Yeah. And
What did-
because I was told my father was 40 and I knew my mother didn't have any other children. I figured my mother probably never even had sex again, but it never occurred to me there would be a sibling out there ever, just because of the age of what I was told my parents were, which, like many other people, the information I was given about my birth father, most of it was not true. So, yeah.
So tell me then, what was your emotion? You're getting this message about this person who's telling you you've got a direct relation, and everybody up until this point has ghosted you. So now this person is reaching out. How are you feeling?
I was in shock. I didn't respond initially, not the same day. This is what that's what I kept saying. Like, I don't know what to do with this. I called my friend. I go, you're not going to believe this, and because it's DNA, it's true. It's not like the old world where it's like, well, can you prove it? And I was completely blown away.
That's unreal.
Noreen, still in shock, sat on Adrian's message for a day before she replied. When she did write back, she expressed her disbelief and joy to be connected with a brother she never expected to have, so the pair began messaging back and forth. Remember, Adrian had been given a 23andMe test by one of his clients, but he forgot about it, so over a year later, he had ordered another one. He said it was an anxious time waiting for his results to be ready, checking the app to see if he had any meaningful connections.
So I'm at work, I'm looking at it. Waited till I got home, I opened it up. A lot of second cousins, once removed and all that. And I said, half sister. So I kind of had to stop for a little bit. It took me back a little bit. And I needed to reach out right away. I needed to reach out. And I didn't know how that person was going to respond, but it said they were on 23andMe. So there was no secrets there. So I wrote a letter and sent it out, a message. And it was short,
It was
right?
brief. Yeah.
It was brief. I think I just said 23andMe said that we're a match and you're a half sister. And I totally understand if you don't want to get in touch. I understand that. And I said, but I would like to. And it was short and sweet. And I checked my messages every 6 hours. And a day went by and I got a response. I remember opening that up and reading it. And she was open to meet, and we didn't waste any time. No, it was fast.
And we live 2 hours from each other.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
lucky.
it was.
Did you just decide, let's meet up? Did you call? What was next?
Yeah.
No, we didn't. I didn't want to call because I felt like if we're talking on the phone and then there's a pause, and now you're questioning.
Online.
And then he was going on a ski trip in a week. And I said, okay, at the risk of sounding like we kept saying this is really weird. So that was already on the table. But I said, can you give somebody my cell number? Because if something happens to you, I'm never going to know. And I'm going to get ghosted again.
My God, you're right. Oh, my
Yeah.
God. Great that you said that. Wow.
So then after that, we started texting.
Texting.
To message back and forth. And the funny thing is 23andMe would send me a message saying I have a relative, but they always do it in batches. So it's like you have 6 new relatives or 12 new relatives. So I hadn't heard from them yet when I think I got that maybe 3 or 4 days later, which was kind of funny.
That is wild. So tell me, Noreen, and I'm going to stay with you. Tell me about your feelings in this 2-hour drive to go meet Adrian.
Oh, we were just kind of talking about that. I started with I didn't realize at the time, some anxiety, panic attacks type of things, like can't catch my breath, my heart kind of pounding to the point that I was going to go to my doctor. And then I realized it was always when I was thinking about this situation. I was like, okay. And then we met in between at a Panera, of course, because where else can you sit for a couple of hours and not get kicked out?
Right.
But that morning driving up, I didn't feel that at all. I really felt at peace.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Adrian, how about you? You're driving. You're going to meet this sister that has appeared out of nowhere on 23andMe. How are you feeling on your way to meet?
I had so many questions. I had so many questions in my head. A lot of anxiety, but I got there first because she always told me she was late all the time. So I was early. Of course.
I gave him a heads up at least, you know.
Right now, this is who I am, buddy.
Yeah.
This is what
So
you're
I'm
getting.
on my 5th cup of coffee, waiting for her to walk through the door. And she did good on time. She was only 5 minutes late.
Yeah. And we exchanged pictures. This was a Tuesday. We exchanged pictures on Sunday.
Just so we'd know who to look for.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Yeah, but she walked in the door and it's like we made contact, we made eye contact, and I think we both kind of just like stopped. We were both in shock.
Yeah. And I had a great shirt on. I had shirts made for each of us.
What did it say?
It says, Dad likes me best. And I was really hesitant. That morning you're getting ready. It's like, well, what should I wear? Do you want to look this way? Do I want to look that way? And finally I was like, oh, forget it. I'm just a long sleeve black t-shirt that said Dad likes me best, because we had just on Sunday start to go, okay, this person has a sense of humor. I think he'll be okay with it. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love
funny.
that. Wow. Hugs?
Oh, yeah. Hugs and then step back.
A lot of eye contact, a lot of staring.
Yeah.
A lot of staring.
And I brought a bunch of questions. I had actually asked him ahead of time because I knew I was going to forget things, and my brain tends to squirrel. And then what were we talking about? Which he's the same way. So it was really good because we were able to.
We share a lot of traits.
Yeah, always good ones. We were able to come back and go, okay, this is what we were talking about. I was asking everything, like what's your political preference? How old were you when this happened? What's your favorite food? That type of thing.
The catching up, right?
Yeah.
The reunion,
Still.
if you feel like, oh my gosh, there's so much I need to learn about you. Where have you been? What did you do? Where were you when this happened?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a lot.
It can be a lot. It's crazy. And it's
It is a lot.
impossible to catch up because you leave and you go, oh, I didn't ask about this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow. So
It's exhausting.
how long did you stay there and how was it?
Couple hours.
Like 3.5
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah. Quite a while.
What was it like to part ways?
I'm a crier. I brought my box of tissues. I did not cry.
Until she got in the car.
No, that was the next visit. Yeah. And then the time after we visited again, I had a really hard time holding back tears. And I think I'd written you in between and said, I don't know what to do. And that's really when I wanted to sign up for this, because the emotions that I was feeling were brand new to me. Like, I did not understand where they were coming from. And things like, I know we just met, but I miss you. And I listen to other podcasts and I hear other people say the same thing, right? I knew I missed you as soon as I saw you, that type of thing. It's still overwhelming. It's still overwhelming. I did not know that having that kind of connection, I didn't know what that love was. I really have never, ever experienced that. And I said to him early on, I'm like, I don't need you to say it, but I love you. Like, I just felt it. And my family, we didn't grow up like that. Nobody said it, but it was just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's such an interesting thing. Talked about this a lot with other adoptees, this notion of it's like falling in love with somebody when you meet a relative, that you finally have this direct connection to somebody that you're genetically related to. Peace in and of itself is monumental, right? Never having known a genetic relative before, now having that, incredible.
Yep.
The part that we just talked about, this idea of trying to get caught up on all that you've missed, creating connection and all of that stuff, is just like when you start dating someone, right? You about them all the time. You've got a list of questions. You can't with them again. You truly do miss them, and you start to feel like you love them. And so it is a very intense set of emotions that coincides with adoption reunion when it goes well. It's really
intense. And so that second time, I didn't bring my tissues with me. And then we went to hug and say goodbye in the parking lot, and I just lost it. And poor Adrian, he's like, are you crying? I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm a crier. Don't worry about it.
I'm not crying. You're crying. Oh, wow. That's wild. Adrian, what was it like for you to have this sister who is feeling so connected to you?
Well, the connection's there. We finish each other's sentences. We say the same things at the same time. And
it's weird.
It's really weird. And that's it's awesome. Like, where have you been all my life? Like we missed this whole block of time, and we're catching up now. We talk a lot on the phone. We message back and forth a lot. And it's like a missing piece that's fitting back into the puzzle.
It's slowly like filling in. Some question will come up and I'll be like, hey, what did you do at this age? Or how did you do this? Because it occurs to you that I didn't know that. And if I'd grown up with you, I would know that about you.
Yeah. Well, you said a missing piece.
It's the curiosity factor and always being able to jump in, and with technology now and instant messenger and text. So like during the day, it's like, hey, what's up?
Yeah. That part is actually amazing. Imagine reunion in another time when you have to send a letter in the mail and wait for a response to possibly come back.
We talk about that all the time. What happens if you live way out of state? We're only 2 hours away from each other. And
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Adrian, you mentioned the missing piece, and I don't know where the logo is on your screen, but as you look at it, the heart is a missing puzzle piece.
It's a missing piece.
The reason I made the logo be what it is, your heart can be completely full in adoption, but it's not until, in my opinion, make this reconnection to your biological family and you start to fill in the facts and the gaps and you start to know who the people are, what your family history is, that you can start to insert that last puzzle piece. So I just wanted to flag for you that you nailed exactly what the logo of the show is. It's really wild.
Well, it's so hard to explain that to other people. Like you grow up with normal things going on and things around you every day, but there's that piece that's never there. It's never there. And I'm 58 and I feel like things are coming together. Things are whole again.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and maybe I'm saying it wrong. I'm not explaining it, but
You don't know what you're missing. You're missing something, but you don't really know what it is until I was trying to explain to somebody. I was like, you're born deaf. You don't know. You're not missing hearing because you never heard. And then you get an implant and you hear.
And that's a great analogy, because whenever you've seen one of those videos when the person gets the implant, they're highly emotional.
yeah,
And so that's an indication of how intense it is. And this is the same thing, that missing piece.
Noreen and Adrian are paternally connected, but to this point, we hadn't even discussed their birth father at all. Noreen has already said the information she had about their father was only partially accurate, and Adrian corroborated the same from his point of view. Adrian's information was that their father was highly intelligent and very charismatic and quite athletic. He understood that the man had been present and supportive through his whole adoption process, despite being married at the time.
But he was told his father was 35 when he was conceived, born, whatever. I was told 40. And I said, well, that doesn't add up because you happened 5 years after me. So he should have been 45. So that was probably the biggest. Like, I didn't know about that he was married, but the age thing, I was like, and I was convinced I was right. And my information was right. And his information was wrong.
And what did you discover? Did you ever learn?
Oh, yeah. You want to hear that?
Nah. Now we're good. We can stop here. Of course I want to hear that.
Okay. So when Adrian said Vermont didn't allow birth certificates, I Googled and said, well, how does anybody in Vermont, blah, blah, blah. Well, they had changed the rule 2 years ago, the law, and he didn't know it. So he was able to order his birth certificate. So that was in March, right?
not only did I get my birth certificate, but I got my full adoption profile. I got my whole package, identifying and non-identifying information. So with that, the search began.
Yeah. So I drove up to his place and I told him he couldn't open the birth certificate till I got there.
I promised that I wouldn't open it. So we both sat on the edge of the seat waiting for this letter to come.
Yeah. And then we opened it and our father's name was not listed, but his mother's. I thought maybe he'd be listed since he knew about the pregnancy. That was.
Oh, let's back up a little bit. On my adoption package that I got, it said that I was given the name Bruce Arthur.
So she named him, but the father's name wasn't listed.
Interesting. Okay.
So his mother's name was listed. So I went down that rabbit hole, right, to figure out who his mother was and newspaper clippings. And I was like, oh, okay, well, she was pregnant when she got married. And then she had one kid in 1960. She had another one in 1962. And then she was single or divorced when Adrian was born in 66. So even there, because one of the things Adrian had said, like, why did they give me up? And I said, well, now there you have it. She was a single mother with two boys under the age of 4 when you were conceived with a married person.
Noreen and Adrian joined Ancestry to see if they could find some more relatives on that more widely used platform for family history and search. On Ancestry, the pair connected with a cousin named Whitney, who had already worked to find her own mother's birth mother. Noreen shared what little information they had about their birth father. He was a skier, he worked in insurance, and that she had tracked down a likely surname for the man. Since Whitney did genealogy, she would be the perfect person to look into everything. The pair had also learned that Adrian's birth mother had named her first 2 sons Troy and Kyle.
And then they name you Bruce Arthur. It doesn't fit.
It doesn't match.
It doesn't match. I don't know. Like Troy and Kyle are a little more creative, like I expect his name would be Montana or Chase or I don't know, River, something in that flavor.
Ruin. I feel you. Yeah.
Yeah. But Bruce Arthur was just such a
sort of gruff.
Yeah. Very distinct.
Troy, Kyle don't necessarily. I see what you're saying.
See what I'm saying? So that's the way my brain works. So I sent Whitney a message and said, hey, did you find anything out through Ancestry? And by the way, we got the birth certificate. Is there anybody in your family named Bruce Arthur? And I didn't check Ancestry for a couple of days. And she wrote a few messages. She goes, I know who your father is. And she lives 20 minutes away from Adrian.
Oh, really cool.
So I drove up again the next day and we met. She met us, and it was her godfather was our father.
Whitney's godfather was your birth father.
Yep.
Yep.
Wow. That's
So our grandfathers were brothers. That's how Whitney is and us are related.
understood.
She brought pictures. She was wonderful, like incredibly warm. And here he is.
That's amazing. And was he passed on?
Yeah, he passed on in 2000.
Gotcha. So he had long since passed. Fascinating. So what did you learn about him?
That he was married and had 3 kids, 3 boys. And it turned out he was 30 when I was conceived, not 40. So that put a few more things in place on my birth mother. The fact that she was 40, having an affair with somebody that was 30 who was married. Yeah, a little bit more on why that door got shut, and probably never tried to think about it again.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he is a civil engineer in insurance. He skied. That part was true. Yeah. That was the only thing that was true in all the information I had received through the years. But extremely personable. People really liked him. Very intelligent. Yeah. Like really good guy.
Did you, when you looked in the pictures, did either of you see pieces of yourself in his face?
Not a huge amount. Like I felt like if I stood next to him, you could say, oh, yeah, I could see the resemblance. But I think if he was in a crowd of people, I'm not so sure.
Understood. How about you, Adrian?
No, little bits and pieces. But again, Noreen and I have more than I see in other members of the family.
But we've been told we look like the great grandparents.
Yeah.
And we can see that. We've seen pictures of the great grandparents and the grandparents, and then pieces start to fall into place. So I actually look more like Bruce's sister, my
Gotcha.
father's sister. And Adrian definitely looks more like the male side of the family.
Let me ask, you've mentioned that your biological father had children. You've been in touch with them and any other children along your journey that are not those children of his marriage?
Yeah, no other children that we
found.
know. I kind of hope not. Whitney told a cousin who then told his brother's wife. And so word has spread, and they've just been amazing. Like an incredibly open, warm family.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been great. It's been great. And every week there's more news and more acceptance and communication and curiosity, and doors just keep opening.
And they're backfilling stuff for us. Like a lot of messaging about, well, this happened in this year, or this is the way we used to do this. They used to have big family reunions. And just as memories are coming up about that side of the family, we're getting things filled in.
It's incredible.
So,
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
yeah, it's really cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah. So then I decided to contact the 3 brothers. Because it's always bothered me that my birth mother made all the decisions. She chose not to tell Bruce. Nobody in her family. I certainly didn't get any choice in anything. And I just felt they had a right to know. I didn't really expect to hear from any of them because they're 70 and 68 and
Yeah, why?
for what reason. But my letter was pretty brief. Just said, I'm adopted. Adrian found me through 23andMe. We know this is our father, and it's probably a shock, and we don't want to interfere in your lives. But if you have any health history, that would be great. That was all I wrote.
So,
And
moment. Is this letter to those siblings the first time they're hearing about Adrian and you? So these people are getting a letter that says they've got 2 siblings.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
yeah, I know.
My gosh, that is
Surprise.
unreal. That's wild. Unbelievable. And they were receptive. That's really amazing. Wow.
Well, I got a call from the middle brother. I put at my phone, right? And I look down and I see the surname. I was like, oh, that's me, right? I'm one of them. And he was great. Same thing, welcoming, corrects himself when he says my dad and says our dad. Yeah. Been amazing. And after the podcast, we're going to go up and meet him for the first time.
Is that right? So you're on your way to meet. I was going to ask you what you guys were doing together. That's really cool.
Yeah. And then a couple weeks later, I heard from another brother. He's out in Michigan, and we've talked a couple times. And so I've heard out of two out of the three. So it's way more than either one of us could have expected.
Absolutely. How are you feeling about going to meet this brother?
Well, I started with my anxiety attacks again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We've talked on the phone. We have talked to this brother on the phone, both of us. Quite a few hours. And we keep saying our family's got the gift of gab. So conversations flow pretty easily. And seems like a great guy, and his wife, super nice, super inviting. So it's a little different than Adrian and I came in with nothing, no base, nothing. And we're going to meet Stephen, our brother. It's a slightly different light.
In 8 months.
Yeah, all that in 8 months.
In 8 months, this all came full circle. We got answers. We found the whole family.
Yeah.
But how wonderful, too, though, that you have each other to go into this with together.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot.
You know, the funny thing about doing a double adoptee episode with these two siblings is there's only one birth father to talk about, but there are two birth mothers, and we haven't even gotten to Adrian's maternal reunion yet. He said that all of this information gathering and adoption reunion happened at the same time. His birth certificate arrived, and his and Noreen's search kind of split in two, locating their birth father and his birth mother simultaneously. Noreen's internet search prowess tracked down Adrian's birth mother in Florida.
Well, initially, I thought she was still alive. Then I had to say, oh, no, sorry, she's not. I feel horrible about that because we had, I don't know, it was 2 weeks maybe.
Yeah, there was some backtracking and then going forward and getting a little more and then backtracking and then going forward and getting a little more. And I have
your
sister-in-law.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law, yeah. I have two brothers on my mom's side. One passed away, and another one that I haven't yet reached out to, but I have been in touch with my sister-in-law and my niece. And not as open as dad's side of the family.
I see.
But I'm getting answers. They're helpful, but I don't think they're too...
They're in Florida, so there's the distance thing, and
I think that's a lot of it. I think the distance is so far that, and I think it's, I don't want to say standoffish, but
no, just like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah,
they don't initiate the communication, right? You do.
Yeah,
it's fascinated.
Yeah.
That's really fun. That's wild, unbelievable. Well, I'm so happy for you guys. I'm so glad we did this together. Noreen, you're absolutely right that you have a unique experience here in being able to share joint reunion journey with you and Adrian. And I love hearing that you're about to go and meet Steve. That's really cool. And
yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
I'm just so glad that you guys have each other to do it with. It can be so daunting to go into something as emotional as this.
We were talking about that last night, and I think the procrastination would have kicked in. I think it would have been a longer process doing it alone. Having each other to bounce things off of makes things a lot easier.
Have you heard of the string theory?
I've heard of it, but tell me what you're thinking about.
Yeah, it's that the universe, when things are ready, the universe puts everything in place when all those pieces are there. And that is exactly what's happened, right? Because if any of these pieces weren't there, none of this would have happened. Everything has fallen into place. 23andMe is going bankrupt, right? If Adrian had decided just to go to Ancestry, I wasn't going to go on Ancestry because I didn't have a whole lot of stuff on 23andMe. So that door was pretty much shut. So that's the start of it, that in January that he went to 23andMe, and then to get the birth certificate, to find Whitney on Ancestry. Like, she was the right one to find. There's all these cousins or whatever, but she was the one that was able to put the pieces together for us. It's amazing.
How it all fell into place.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like we say, if we had met 20 years ago, none of this would have happened.
No.
Also a good point.
We're
And
both the places in our lives.
It probably would have been the Christmas card once a year, and
that's exactly what I was going to say. When you're in a different spot in your life, you receive people and information differently. So absolutely incredible.
yeah, we're really lucky.
Yeah. I thank you so much for being here. This has been really amazing. Good luck meeting Steve. I hope
Thank
it goes exceptionally well. And I wish you both the best. All right. Take care.
Thanks a lot, Damon.
Thank
This
you
was
very
great.
much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Hey, it's me. Noreen and Adrian lived completely different experiences growing up in adoption. Noreen stood out in her family but was supported in her search by her adoptive mother. Adrian was catalyzed toward adoption reunion by the untimely death of his brother. Each used DNA to try to find more answers about themselves, and luckily they found each other. I really loved that they had one another to lean on in the remainder of their reunion searches, because finding a grave and the uncertainty of meeting paternal relatives can be nerve-wracking to navigate alone. Having a sibling, especially someone you're connected to who can finish your sentences and whom you knew you loved from the moment you met, must be so incredibly special. I'm Damon Davis, and I hope you found something in Noreen and Adrian's journeys that inspired you, validates your feelings about wanting to search, or motivates you to have the strength along your journey to learn, who am I really?